The offense, brutal. The pitching, not great. The rest of the season outlook, well, I think you're picking up on the theme here. If you travel back to the Patreon show, and you join us over there, I said something like, the Guardians' fate is still in their hands, despite the way that they've played. The Guardians' fate, given who they still have left on the schedule, that they're not completely out of it in terms of games back, fate is still in their hands. What I didn't anticipate is when I said their hands, I didn't mean the unwashed hands of a kindergartner at the height of flu season. But that's where we're at.
You sound like you're speaking from experience there.
Oh, you have the fun to look forward to. Your immune system will be so much stronger on the other side of all of that. But in the meantime, you're going to have to fight through it. And the Guardians are going through it.
They still control their own destiny. They just can't really lose for the next month. Yeah.
It makes me feel silly because we have conversations after they lose the series against Atlanta. They get swept. We say this thing can't happen. This can't happen. And then it continues to happen more and more. And how they lose is different every night. You had Cade Smith blowing in a couple of games. You had the pitching terrible. The offense was brutally bad in this series. It can't happen. It is happening. It's happening right before our eyes. And I think the reality here of what this team is, the fate that they're ultimately going to get to, it's becoming pretty clear here.
Yeah. Can I be totally honest, TJ?
I would welcome it.
I don't really want to talk about them.
Okay.
It's the same. It's been the same all year. There was a nice little 4-week respite where they played better, but during those 4 weeks, it's not like you looked at the roster and were like, this is the team they are. They win at a 700 clip and they just pull out the hits at the right time. Like, no, it was the same roster. They still had Gabriel Arias batting 6th every day. You know, it's nothing has changed. That's why when they were playing well and you were like, forget everything we said when they lost 10 in a row, I was like, nah, I don't think so. I think the bottom lines are still prevalent. And after watching the Atlanta series, sure, but the last week, it's just, there's nothing left to say about what this team is, about how this team got into this position, and about what this team needs to do moving forward. And we have a lot of time to talk about that last part. I have nothing to say, and I'm just not interested. They got shut out back-to-back games. Like, that was a series against a team that you were right there neck and neck with in the standings, and, like, you laid an egg. So I would rather talk about a whole host of topics. I'd love to pitch them to you, see if any pique your interest more than talking about this 64-65 team.
So you're telling me this whole 20-minute discussion about George Valera that I had planned, no good? We need to just toss that in the garbage?
Just give me the quick 10-second synopsis. Call them up. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, they've pretty much moved on
stats
from
away here. Okay.
They've essentially moved on from Carlos Santana and Nolan Jones. So you can't make a case that there's not room for somebody.
Yeah, it'd be a perfect time of year for the whole Carlos Santana DFA. See if there's somebody else you can catch on with.
Sure.
Because we want to make room for someone that has been a top prospect with us and now looks healthy and has had a good week. Good weekend.
Congratulations.
Hit for the cycle.
You successfully got into George Valera conversation.
George Valera hit for the cycle. You're not excited.
That's very exciting. Yeah.
You followed up with a triple the next day. How do you have that happen?
I'd like to see that guy succeed. I'd like to see him get a chance. He seemed like he was special. I mean, he might still be. I don't know. He's gone through it, man. A lot of injuries, a lot of inconsistency, inability to hit lefties, or it seemed like he could crush any fastball off a righty. And it seemed like because he was always young for his level and just a super sharp dude too. If you know his story and know, growing up in the Bronx and then the Dominican, and then his upbringing allowed him to, he gets to a point where he's like 20 years old and he's a team leader and he's helping people with their English and their Spanish. And It just seemed like he was going to be the total package. I can't believe you got me doing a whole segment on this.
I did it. Can't win a damn war draft, but I can get you off topic and make you commit to the thing you don't want.
And then next thing you know, he's signing. He's off the 40-man roster. He's signing a minor league deal, and then, he's really had to earn his way back into consideration here.
Yeah. To be clear here, I'm not even saying it like, whoo, George Valera could be part of the future. It's more what you were saying. This is boring. They're not putting up any offense. They had 15 hits over the weekend in 3 games. That's not going to get it done. I think 11 of them were singles. Not going to get it done. It's boring. I'm not getting much joy out of at-bats that don't focus on Jose Ramirez right now. CJ Kayfus still has my attention the rest of the year. And trying to see what the hell is going to happen with Stephen Kwan if he's ever going to emerge from this slump that just keeps biting him in the butt. Outside of that, not really excited about too much on the offensive side. So how about seeing the guy that we haven't ever seen in the major leagues for tons and tons of reasons and see what happens. See what happens over the last 5 weeks because his bat is red hot at AAA, and it'd be more interesting to watch George Valera play than it would be Nolan Jones, Carlos Santana, or really even Angel Martinez. And I know they don't play the same position necessarily, but you can find at-bats for that guy. It'd be more interesting. So in the realm of trying to make this rest of the season worth watching, a guy like George Valera would be part of it for me.
Yeah, that's fine. There are things you need to take into consider. If you're making an argument for or against Travis Bazzana getting a call-up, you have to think about the player incentives, draft pick incentives, service time stuff. Like, you have to take that into account with him, right? So that's a different conversation than this, which is George Valera might benefit you to give him a shot in September, add him to the 40-man roster, and then you can choose one way or another if you want to keep him over the winter or going into next season or cut bait.
He was a top prospect for you. You don't even have any sort of curiosity to see what would happen. And even when he's swinging the bat as well as he is, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? That's what the rest of the season should be about. It's all about positioning yourself for 2026 and selfishly making it interesting for TJ. That is what I'm concerned with here.
Well, that's it. There are no more interesting topics regarding the Guardians. How about the weather?
Bullcrap.
Have you looked at the forecast this week, my friend?
Oh, you're going to hit me with a weather take?
We're
only 8 minutes into this show.
It's fall. We slept with the windows cracked open last night.
Congrats.
Nice breeze. Got a little chilly. Kids out waiting for the bus this morning in long sleeves because it was in the 50s.
Yeah. My daughter was yelling at me. She's wearing pants and a short sleeve shirt. She said, "Where's my jacket? It's too cold."
Always sneaks up on us last week of August.
It's just an excuse for me to cuddle her before she heads off. I gotta give her a hug. You gotta give me a hug. Gotta give Daddy a hug because those days are
Does
probably.
Does she still love you, or
dwindling.
how old is she?
When you're in second grade, the days of hugging Dad before the bus stop they're dwindling. So I'm gonna take them while I can get them, even if they're selfishly making you cold as it happens. The weather. Yeah,
the
good
weather.
take. Good, great, man. Awesome. Fantastic. Did you see the start by Shane Bieber?
Yeah.
That was so much fun.
You know what's funny is
got a lot of joy there.
I said all along with him, if he was going to come back to the Guardians, watching Matthew Boyd last year do what he did was so unfair to anyone who's ever going to come back from Tommy John surgery. Trevor Stephan is sitting there in Columbus like, hey, I promise it's not that easy. It's not that simple. He can't get his velocity back to where it was, and he's going through it, and he's a reliever. Like, he's throwing 20 pitches, and it's one thing they always say the last thing that comes back is your command. And you can come back, and some guys throw harder just because you're, just lifting.
Yeah. You got to strengthen the muscles around everything that's happening in your arm.
But I always said with Bieber, I was like, it's hard for me not to have the expectations of matching what Boyd did last summer because we've literally just never seen Bieber not exceed expectations. He's always been as good as we could have hoped for, right? And so,
health was the only thing.
Even his struggles or like his rookie season was special. So it's funny watching him and like, yeah, command's the last thing that comes back. That dude had unbelievable command
Right.
in his
Right.
first start back. And like he looked sharp in his rehab outings. And that's what flipped the switch too for the Guardians to be like, okay, teams see this, like they're gonna make offers with decent prospects. He's gonna be traded. And the guy just looked so sharp. And I just wonder, like, there's a lot left in there. I mean, someone's going to pay him this winter, and I feel like he's going to make it worthwhile.
So I was watching the Toronto broadcast. I was watching the pregame. They were showing him in the bullpen, and as he's warming up, they're also promoting Creed. I guess Creed is doing a concert at some point.
Yeah, tell me more.
North of the border.
That's a topic I would talk about.
So Bieber is in the bullpen throwing pitches, and all I hear is, "Can you take me higher?" And like I'm jacked, I'm ready to go, man. Bieber's warming up, and they got Creed playing. I am so in. I'm not leaving this broadcast. I don't care what the Guardians are going to do.
What an appropriate line, too, because the Blue Jays are begging for him to take them higher. He's exactly what they need.
Absolutely. And the amazing thing, and I know there are going to be some that say, he's not a member of the Guardians, I don't care anymore. And you know what? I don't even care about that opinion, because this gave me joy to watch this weekend. I'm a baseball fan, and I'm a Bieber fan. I like the guy. I loved all the conversations I've had. I'm personally rooting for him. I can't wait for him to get to the postseason, and I hope he shoves. And I'm not going to feel bad about that as, like, from a Cleveland perspective, oh, I wish that would have been for us. Sure. Right, I do. I wish that, but it's not happening. So what's the next best scenario for me? Go kick ass for somebody else and go try to win your championship. I want that for him. And what I'm amazed by, and I shouldn't be amazed by it, is just he looked like vintage Bieber from the jump. I know what you're saying about command is there. What happens when a guy has like 10 out of 10 command? On a bad day, maybe 9.5. Okay, so what's Bieber like with 8 command? Still pretty damn good, and I think it's only going to get better from here, and as he learns the velocity and the movement profile that he currently has at his level of health at the moment, he's only going to improve. And I know can also point to, well, it's not the most difficult of opponents. No, to come out here and look in command, go as deep as he did, I could not be any more impressed, and I could not get any more joy from watching him. The only thing that I laughed at, because we're having this conversation about how much we believed he was going to come back. Remember, when they signed him, I said I was excited because I thought there was going to be that specter, that ghost constantly in the back of his head that's been dragging him down about, oh, is my arm going to give out at any moment? That's going to be gone because that's surgically repaired. Mm-hmm. And once you get past a certain point, you're no longer going to have that. It's going to be in your rearview mirror. So what's a Bieber look like completely unchained? I didn't have any questions that he was going to come back and be this good. The Toronto broadcast had a little video
Dan
package.
Shulman, who's great.
They had a video package. I don't know if it was produced by Sportsnet or if it was somebody that Bieber knew, because this was really in depth. Had Bieber, and it had just so much B-roll and interviews, and even his wife was part of it. And so I don't know where the production came from, but they had clips, him in Cleveland dominating. And then they also had what sounded like conversations between talk show hosts. I don't know where this came from. It was nobody in Cleveland, and I don't know nationally who would have been talking about this at the time when he got hurt. But all of the conversation was, oh, I don't think Bieber can come back. He's not coming back from this. He's done. And I'm like, who is having
that.
this conversation? Where did this come from?
That video was actually sent to me a couple months ago, and I was like, it's cool. I know it's hard for any pitcher to go through that. You're out for, I mean, he was out for 16 months. It's crazy. And it feels like everybody goes through it. And so it's, I mean, this is the whole debate Tristan McKenzie had to have, which is like, the grass is not always greener. Like, not everybody comes back and is great. And it depends when in your career this happens, too. And so when that was sent to me a couple months ago, like, because it's when the first time before he had the setback, when they thought he was getting closer to coming back to Cleveland, I said the exact same thing. I was like, who talks like this? Because everybody goes, like, it's like half the pitchers get Tommy John surgery at some point. Like,
They were talking like his career was done. I never believed that. In fact, I thought he was going to come back just as strong.
The point that Bieber has actually, and I'll give him credit for this because he's a pretty guarded individual. The thing that he has opened up a little bit about and been sort of candid about is the time in your career when it happens and how that's, it's one thing if you're Garrett Cole and you had Tommy John surgery, but you signed your $300+ million deal, and it's like, go rehab at your pace and come back and do what you got to do. But for McKenzie, who's like in ARB and is trying to figure out when he's going to be able to cash in. For Bieber, who is in his free agent year. Like, that's why he's standing on the mound in Seattle. And like, he knows his elbow's toast, but he's like, all right, well, let me gut through this scoreless performance, and then I go have my surgery. 'Cause what else am I going to do here? Like, and I
know my arm's falling off, but I want to complete this impressive game.
Yeah, and imagine, it'd be different if it was like 30 years ago, too. At least now there are enough examples in the medical side of things is improved enough to where guys get contracts while rehabbing or coming back, right? And
or traded for, yeah.
Yeah, so things have changed. There was a little drama behind it, but there didn't need to be. But I can understand too. How many times have TJ we've talked to guys who you're in the desert, you're in Arizona, it's lonely. You're lucky if you have he had his wife and they had a baby, and that's fortunate because a lot of guys are out there on their own. And it's 115 degrees in June and July, and
you might as well be on Mars.
Yeah,
you are so You are such a distant memory from everybody.
I was talking to Eric Sabrowski recently, and he was giving me the daily itinerary in Arizona in April, May, and it would be go to the and thankfully for the Guardians, I guess you have a lot of teammates with the Guardians who are out there rehabbing too, so there are familiar faces at least. But it's so monotonous, and you go. And you're doing your work, and it's the same work day after day. And let's say you're doing it from 9 to 1, and then you head home, and the Guardians are on. They're 3 time zones to the east. Okay, let me pop that on, watch that, then eat dinner, and then go to bed. And it's just the same boring thing. And everyone listening is gonna be like, "Well, I work a 9 to 5, and then eat dinner, and then go to bed." But it's the fact that all your teammates are playing games that matter and they're far away and you're not part of it. It's imagine you're 9 to 5, but everybody else is at a corporate retreat and you're stuck in the office alone. Okay. So it's miserable.
In the janitor's closet in the basement.
But let's also be understanding that a lot of guys go through this. And so, and there are varying levels of what it looks like when you come back. And I would urge you, go watch the Pitching Ninja. I think there was a 12-second clip that I watched, and it's you could have shown me that in 2019 or 2020 or last April, 2024, and I would have thought it was from then. It looked like vintage Bieber.
And yet this stretch by Cleveland proving that they made the right call in not trying to make this happen in Cleveland. And again, as I said it at the time. I said it at the time, and we'll get to Cal Steven because that's even a separate conversation here too. You are disappointed, angry even, that this moment doesn't get to come in Cleveland. I'm a little bit upset, maybe even more than just a little bit upset, that we didn't get to just watch that start. Forget about it happening in Miami against the Marlins for Toronto. I wanted to see that in Cleveland. I wanted to see the crowd welcoming him back and him getting that rightful standing ovation after he leaves the field. I wanted that moment. I was craving it, and when they signed him, I think we were all anticipating it was going to come. That said, you got into a position where you made some critical mistakes in the roster that you built. You had some bad luck along the way, too, and the number of injuries that you've had that we've covered extensively. Some of it out of their control, some of it in their control. But you're here today, so how do you make yourself better for 2026 and beyond? The right move was trading Shane Bieber, getting back a Cal Steven that we're all, at least on this show, pretty excited about.
Bieber.
I said the delivery was some mix between Bieber and Kluber, and I think the organization agreed. I'm very excited. You got the most out of it here. And at the end of the day, there was a time where I was very concerned that Bieber was going to depart this organization and you were going to get nothing for him because of the injury and the timing of when it happened. And you couldn't trade him at the time. and you weren't going to give him some qualifying offer also at the time. So you were going to get nothing for this ace, this Cy Young Award winner, to walk away. At least that tree continues. And you're going to see what happens with Steven. Obviously, he's going to want to prove that he's healthy and feeling good into the offseason. Look like he was on that path already. But I think while it's brutal that we don't get to watch that, I think everybody comes out of this getting something that they need.
Okay, let's get to the reason why everybody's here. Let's talk about it. The elephant in the room. You're tuning in on this Monday because you want to hear what we have to say. We have takes about this.
Ready for this sharp right turn.
The Cleveland Browns set up Shedeur Sanders to fail?
I have never seen so many TikToks breaking down the overhead footage and the offensive line and how long he's holding the ball, and I could not believe I don't even seek this crap out, and it's on my timeline.
Part of me actually wants to launch into a discussion about this because I've seen, man, there are very few topics that promote stupidity like this one, but that's neither here nor there.
Why can't anybody?
If we do talk about this for a couple minutes, it might help our YouTube numbers. I don't know.
It's like you have to make a point and then you have to defend it till the day you die. You can never change off of it. You can never admit that the other side of the argument might have credence, that there might be something to it. No, you can't ever let it play out. It's always, I have to confirm my bias or else get the hell out of here. It's kind of crazy.
Why would they spend a draft pick on a guy that they want to fail?
Can I tell you something that equally got under my skin?
Yeah.
For you, compared to me, the take that not everybody can handle the ninth inning.
Ooh.
Not everybody can handle the ninth inning. And you know what? That's a correct take. Totally fair. You know what we call those people that can't handle the ninth inning? Bad pitchers. That's what I'm going to call them. They can't handle the ninth, and you are correct. You are absolutely correct. I don't think Matt Festa can handle the ninth inning. I don't think he can. Now, Stephen Vogt apparently thinks he can handle extra innings, but that's beside the point.
Okay, I meant to draw this, and I forgot. But imagine when Festa came into the game in the fourth inning on Sunday, I had this thought. Because I said this a couple weeks ago where it's like every single Guardians game, the starting pitcher leaves, Festa comes in, and then it goes one way or the other, right? And I was going to draw one of those, those, you have the boxes and the arrows and then other boxes. What am I, what I'm talking about?
A flow chart? Is that what that's called?
Yes, flow chart. And it was going to be the starting pitcher leaves, arrow down, Matt Festa comes in, and then one arrow going one way that says, are the Guardians winning? Or it was going to be the starting pitcher leaves. Are the Guardians winning? Yes. Matt Festa comes in. Are the Guardians winning? No. Matt Festa comes in. And then it was going to be Matt Festa comes in. Are the Guardians winning? Yes. And you go to Gaddis, Sabrowski, Cade Smith. And if it's no, it's Junis, Allard, maybe even Austin Hedges. I had this perfect idea for a flow chart, and I forgot to draw it. But there he was. There he was. Fourth inning, and didn't work out.
That would have been as iconic as your Sonny Gray arrows. Sonny Gray.
What were we saying? Oh, ninth inning. So what is your? So you think you're one of those analytic nerds who's like, it's all the same. You just got to get 3 outs. Stop making a big deal out of this.
I'm 85% of the way there.
Pitchers aren't human. They don't feel
emotion.
But
this is going back
or
to
nerves.
that whole you got to defend your point forever. I'm willing to admit there's 15% of every equation that I can't quite account for. But 85% of the way, yeah, I think you want good pitchers in the ninth inning. Are there times where a good pitcher might have to learn or might have to go through some struggles in the ninth inning to become a better closer? I can buy that. I think there is something to the last 3 outs being more of a looming sort of heaviness that every pitcher has to deal with, only because there's no safety net behind you. And that's what I've talked about before, why even if a manager understands that ace relievers analytically makes more sense to have the guy come out in the 7th or the 8th if to face a certain part of the lineup compared to the 9th. But I'm also willing to leave the door open to understand that there's something about knowing that if this guy fails, I have a better reliever behind them. And when I want my last line of defense to be my best reliever because I don't want to have to go to the bullpen for anybody else. So I understand why you'd want to hold that guy for the 9th inning, even if analytically it doesn't always make sense.
Okay, I have two points, because what you and I say on this topic doesn't matter because we are not facing that sort of pressure. We're not in that situation. We don't know. And I would look at Cade Smith and I would think, you pitched in playoff games with guys on base, the best hitters in the world at the plate. Like, you were called upon in the toughest situation of every game in the playoffs. So to think that you can't handle the 9th inning in August against the Diamondbacks doesn't pass the smell test to me. That dude, knowing him and his personality and his mindset, that guy is a robot. Like, I don't think he would get flustered regardless of the situation. So I'm not really buying it with him. I will say, what were you doing on May 7th, 2012? Because I would venture a guess that you were with me. You were here. You were at the ballpark. You were standing in on a conversation with a guy who shut the door in the 9th inning when he didn't really think that was going to be his responsibility. That guy's name is Tony Sipp. It was a doubleheader against the White Sox. It's a long day at the ballpark. You probably wrote a diary of the day. And at the end of the day, around like 9:30 p.m., he gets the call to come in the 9th to protect a 3-2 lead. And he gets Jose Ramirez on a deep fly ball to left, strikes out Brent Lillibridge, walks Paul Konerko, strikes out Tyler Flowers. No harm, no foul, gets the save. And after the game, he says about closers, I have a newfound respect for those guys. So that's someone admitting, it's a little different.
No, I already said I'm willing to buy that there's something to those last 3 outs carrying a certain weight that the other ones do not. And I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that you are the last line of defense. And if it's set up that way in the 9th inning, or if it's like the 12th inning and nobody else is left, it's still going to carry some weight. So what I think the point really is here, not everyone can handle the 9th. That's true. What I would consider bad relievers, but people that are good enough to be the ace reliever can handle the 9th inning. That's the point here. With Cade Smith, there's nothing to he's great in the 7th, he's great in the 8th. He can't do it in the 9th inning. I don't buy that. He's a good pitcher. And what I would ask you to do, and I'm going to open the door for this because I could not come up with an example of this. That does not mean that it doesn't exist. But how many relievers that are really good relievers that are in line to eventually become the closer, are given an opportunity to become the closer, how many guys that are good relievers get that opportunity, fail, go back to being the 8th inning guy, and then never ascend to being the closer ever again? Can you think of a lot of those sorts of guys? And don't give me Fausto Carmona, because that's no, completely different situation. I could not come up with a guy that was like, oh my God, that guy's great. But then you gave him a chance in the 9th, terrible, went back to being the 7th and 8th inning guy, great, and never got another chance to close. Maybe it's out there, and I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you graduate from role to role. But didn't we know Cody Allen was destined to be a closer when he was doing the Cade Smith role in 2013? I mean, you could even say the same thing about Chris Perez. Came over in that trade and was pitching in middle relief, setup guy, but you knew, like, that's going to be your closer. Yeah, I mean, Fausto was just thrown into that way too early. And they
were just trying to make something happen there.
Yeah. No,
they're recreating Jose Mesa all over again.
There are so many other things to complain about than before Cade Smith. And I wouldn't say this about everybody though either. Like it's I think you could tell just on a guy's mentality. I give Nick Enright a ton of credit because he doesn't have like the 98-mile-an-hour fastball and he's got a good slider, but like he doesn't have overpowering stuff. His thing is just mentally just attack, and you see him throwing strikes and trying to hit his spots, and he's been great, right? And I think there's something to, he came in for that save in New York against the Mets and wasn't rattled because he's got to keep that same mentality, right? Like he's not going to blow people away. So whether it's the 6th inning and they're down 2 or it's the 10th inning and they're up 2, he's got to throw strikes and attack the strike zone no matter what. So you could see how someone like him could work in that role maybe. And I'm not saying long term. I'm just saying for that one day. But then I think about like the season Joe Borowski had in 2007. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't feel comfortable. Like I'm not breathing easy if that guy's protecting a lead in the 5th or the 9th. Like so a lot of it is the stuff, and it's the mental makeup. It's, can you tell yourself, like I think Cade Smith tells himself, no matter when he's pitching, it's forget about all. You're not standing out there thinking, or you shouldn't be thinking, it is the 7th inning and I am pitching and it's a tie game. It is the 9th inning. Like you're just trying to get outs. And that's cliche, but that's how a reliever has to approach it.
Yeah, obviously building it up to be a bit facetious here, but in terms of Cade Smith, I don't question whether or not he can handle the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning. To me, if a reliever is good, you're going to get there eventually if you need him to close. There have been guys that have been great at that being that ace reliever, the guy that comes in as the 7th, 8th inning guy, and oftentimes they don't ascend to being the closer for the very reason that Terry Francona talked about loving having Cody Allen for the 9th to deploy Andrew Miller however the hell he wanted. You can make the argument in that year that Andrew Miller was a better reliever, but for the dynamics of the bullpen to work the way that they want, it was set up that way. And I think there are going to be, like I'm thinking, remember the Yankees used to have some really dominant setup arms in front of Rivera, and Rivera was that before with Wetland, and they didn't ascend to being the closer because you had Mariano Rivera there. So maybe you can find trying to think, Graham Lloyd comes to mind.
Jeff Nelson,
yeah.
I mean, you could see how missing Clase really hurts, right?
Yeah.
They definitely feel one super reliable reliever short. And the bullpen's been, like, overall, it's still been good. I know they've had a rough stretch here, but I remember, and it's not my fault, but when I wrote about Enright and Sobrowski about a week ago, they were 4th in the league in bullpen ERA.
Yeah.
And so, it definitely, like, Sobrowski and Enright have done really well with more higher leverage assignments. But it just, I do think there's also part of it where it's like, oh, we got Class A back there. So that takes a little bit off of everybody's plate. It makes me feel like if assuming he's not going to be part of this organization anymore, they might behoove them to find another leverage reliever somehow over the winter.
They typically are always trying, spending resources that, and some get very upset, even on this show, get very upset that they're spending resources on. But they are looking to fortify that a little bit. So to bring this full circle, not everyone can handle the 9th.
Full circle, I've got a topic for you, actually. Forget about no, you're too much Guardians talk. Too much Guardians talk. Stop. I put a poll in our Discord, and you can join our Discord, which is just always fun. No matter what the state of the team is, it's always lively and definitely doesn't make you want to pull your hair out ever. I put a poll in there.
How do people join the Discord?
Oh, that's what I meant to say. Subscribe to our Patreon. It's great.
I know people join the Patreon just for the Discord, and they get the episodes as a bonus.
Yeah.
And just so we're clear here, we put that behind a paywall because we want that to be a community where people feel like it's like-minded, well-intentioned Guardians fans, not necessarily anybody coming in to just ruffle feathers and depart.
Yeah.
Though that does still happen on occasion. But
but there's a lot of healthy
That's what we want.
I don't even want to say debate. It's really good conversation, honestly. And sometimes like I'll just scroll through there to take the temperature of the room, which I did.
Did you get
over
burned?
the weekend?
Yeah,
because I asked, "What do people want to hear us talk about this week?" Because I said I didn't want to talk about this Guardians team, and then you've made me do it for 33 of the 35 minutes. So far.
we spent like 20 minutes on Bieber, which people in the comments down there are probably already complaining about.
Yep,
this is not a Blue Jays podcast. You're right.
People want to hear about.
It's our
people
show.
want to hear about your rock star days. That was
my
winner
rock
of the poll.
star days. Yeah. Well, not great. Nothing.
What's the biggest crowd you ever played in front of?
Probably like 100 people, maybe a little bit more than that. Some YMCA gyms. Played at in front of a Battle of the Bands crowd at Mount Union College when it was Mount Union College, not university.
How many instruments can you play?
Play well or just full people on?
Full people on.
2. Guitar, bass. That's it. Yeah. But I get them out now, and it's like a foreign language I don't even remember. Everyone had like the 3-4 songs that as soon as you would pick up the guitar, I'm going to start doing this. Like I realized as I was cleaning out some stuff
like
a couple of years ago and getting rid of some stuff, I sold some of my music gear that I just is collecting dust. I'd rather somebody play it, and not even if it's not me. So I feel better if it's out there for somebody. And like I picked it up and started playing it, and just nothing's really working. And I made the right call. I made the right call in giving that to somebody that's going to be able to play it now.
Any advice?
If I miss one thing, it was being able to have my hair a little bit longer. That was fun. Yeah.
How often would you lose your voice?
Not too often.
What is the dream band you'd want to open for?
Nowadays, Avenged Sevenfold, but the problem is we covered half of their catalog, so what would we can't play their songs before they come out on stage.
That would be hilarious gimmick.
Yeah. I had so much fun just playing music. Even if it's in the basement as we're practicing, it's just so much fun. It was a healthy, creative outlet. Even nobody was watching. It just felt, it was fun therapy to be able to do that. I do miss that on occasion. So if you'd like to learn how to play the drums, and I'll get the guitar out, and we can have a Selby Fest that no one will ever forget.
Are we doing Selby Fest? We got to talk about that. One of my favorite projects I've ever done was revisiting Tribe Jam 20 years later.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Rest in peace to Michael Stanley. I remember talking to him for it, and talking to Dave Burba about performing, and Omar Vizquel, and how he'd leave Jacobs Field after a game at night and drive out to Paul Sidoti's house, and they would just jam for hours until like 2 a.m. Paul Sidoti, who now is Taylor Swift's guitarist on tour, and he's obviously done really, really well. And I know we talked about it before, but I'm trying to like imagine what that would look like if they did it now. I'm trying to picture like the current players, and it just doesn't seem like a very like rock star type group. I think Jose would have a ton of fun with it.
Jose would, yeah. I could see
like Slade Ciccone maybe.
Ciccone came to mind,
and his name's Slade, so
yeah,
fits.
yeah. Throw him on lead guitar. Also, Hunter Gaddis looks like a tremendous bass player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea if that man could play bass, but he's got the look for it.
Of course, Festa would have to open.
Oh my God, you sure he wouldn't just be the bridge between the opener and
Carlos Santana on guitar?
Oh yeah, well, there's also that. Although I remember
I'm talking myself into this.
This was several years ago when Mean Tweets was really popular on late night TV, and the Indians at the time had their own version of it. And some people got it. Some people got the gist of what was happening here. Some very, very much did not didn't understand the punchline here. Then Santana had a guitar, and I think he played a couple of riffs, and it was so bad that I think I'd actually want to see it. Any other hot topics coming from Discord?
No, that was it. Some people voted they wanted to hear about the golf match I've got in a few days coming up. But I don't think they actually do.
All right, so the last 15, 20 minutes of the show, I'm seeing if you're going to make a face. The last 15, 20 minutes of the show also comes from Discord, which will spark this conversation that we've been planning for a couple of weeks. This one came from Matt. We talk all the time about how Jose Ramirez shows no signs of slowing down. What does that mean for the end of his existing contract? Feels more and more likely he'll still have gas in the tank when it ends in 2028 and is getting closer and closer. What do you think the end of the line looks like for Jose?
I brought this up to you about a month ago, and you kind of dismissed it. I said, given how productive he's been this season and shown no signs of slowing down, would you tack on a year or two to his contract? And you said, oh, what a stupid conversation about.
I don't remember this at all.
No, I didn't mention. We did a show where it was like 10 questions. It was one of the questions. And yeah, maybe I needed some filler, and I just wanted to talk about Jose.
I think what I said was I would absolutely approach him to see what it would look like on his behalf, so that we would know as an organization, if I'm in this role as the president here, to see if we're anywhere close to being able to make it work.
Here's the deal. When he does his old bit about, we ask him, hey, you are now only, 56 home runs behind Jim Thome for the franchise record. And he says something like, go tell Antonetti that I want 3 more years and $300 million on my contract. And we all laugh. And he's standing there like, no, actually, go do that. Like, I want that. I believe that he wants to retire as a member of the organization. I also believe he wants to win. Let's not get that confused here. Like, I don't think he's trying to sit through. And I'm not saying that the Guardians are headed for 100 lost seasons, but I don't think he'd want to. He's not going to sign up to play for the Rockies for a few years, right? He wants to win. He knows he's going to be 33 in a couple weeks. And I think he understands where he's at in terms of the contract, where he's got 3 more years in Cleveland guaranteed, and then he's a free agent. And if you do the math, he becomes a free agent right after he turns 36. So is he going to be done then? Well, who knows? You never know when that cliff's going to come, but there are no signs of it yet. So I think in his mind, yeah, there's a little bit of light there. And tacking on a year or two to that might make sense. And he would prefer that happens in Cleveland. I have no idea what the Guardians will think, because it's probably going to be a different owner, and it's going to be post-CBA, and they might be in a division with Charlotte, Nashville, and Montreal, and their games might be on ESPN The Ocho, and I have no idea what baseball is going to look like at that point. Everybody might make the playoffs by then. So I don't know what they're thinking. That is not something they typically entertain, but this is a different situation, right? So I kind of think you got to do whatever that guy wants. How much he wants to force the issue now, I don't know.
What I'll be concerned to see as the next several years unfold, how much pressure does he put on this organization, as you said, to win, to say, my career is winding down, and I'm here, I chose to be here, and I want to win, and you have a responsibility to win, and if that's not on the table, then we need to reassess this entire situation. From his perspective, that's about the only thing as a player you can control. And sometimes the organization, we probably don't even hear about all the times that this happens. An organization just calls the bluff and says, sorry, we got to do what we got to do, and we'll take your opinion into account, but we're just going to go the direction we think is necessary.
So I think there were going to be some uncomfortable conversations if they would have traded Quan midseason. Look, you have to keep in mind that when Jose signed his extension, and remember, while the organization deserves some credit because they created an environment where Jose wanted to stay, and they did fork over more cash than they've ever forked over for anybody, he forced the issue. Like, without him being like, can we please get something done? I'll sign for way less than I could get on the free agent market. He would not be a member of this organization. And at that time, they were coming off a bad season. They were 80-82, and we were talking about Bradley Zimmer all the time. And no one thought in 22 that they were going to contend. They just got hot in August and September. And so when he signed his extension, the path forward was sort of murky. So it's not like he said, I'll sign with you, but you got to go build a juggernaut roster here. He knew the situation. Now, he also knew this organization wins a lot more than they lose, right? As critical as we are sometimes, their track record is good. It's not as good as people want, and it's not as good as it could be based on how good they are at certain aspects of organizational building, right? And that leads me to this point, which is that it's not about him. It shouldn't be about him forcing the issue and saying, you need to win while I'm here or trade me. It should be them saying, oh my God, we've got this franchise player and we've had him so cheap and we should capitalize on that. If you're going to build a roster that's capable of winning the World Series, the first thing you need is some awesome superstar bound for the Hall of Fame signed for way below market value. And you've got that. You've had that. So it's more, to me, it should be on the front office and the ownership should feel that burden more than the players saying, please win for me or else I'm going to demand a trade.
Yeah, should be. No doubt about it. But also hasn't been. Maybe not to the level that everyone wants. And
that's been my biggest criticism of that.
Well, that's where I'm coming from as Jose. What role do I play? How do I facilitate maybe trying to put a little bit of pressure, even if it's for naught, and doesn't really matter whether I do it or not. At least I can feel like I tried. I try to do my part to impose a little bit of that acceleration towards what I want. And I would not be upset with him for wanting to do that, for putting his thumb on the scale, because it should hold a lot of weight, more than a lot of people. This is an all-time great for your organization. And when it's all said and done, you can make the argument he might be the best position player of all time for this team, depending on where he gets. I mean, that's how good he is, and he's chosen to be with you, so his opinion should absolutely matter. It comes back to what someone, I think it was on Spotify, one of our comments was, when we were talking about organizations' goal to win 54% of the time, and how that doesn't necessarily create an environment where you feel a lot of pressure on yourselves, because the bar is, hey, we accomplished what we want. The variance didn't take us to the title this year. So we'll come back the next year and try to win 54% and do it again. And from an analytical standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. It also creates a very safe environment for GMs and presidents because they feel like they're accomplishing their goal even if they're ultimately not winning the World Series. And someone pointed out, how it's easy for us, and they were including themselves, it's easy for us to say, hey, go be a little bit more more of a risk taker, when it's not our jobs that are on the line. And you want to have self-preservation here. And my point at the time, my counterpoint, and that I think they actually agree with me, is this is where an ownership would step in and put some pressure to say, yeah, that's fine that that's your goal, but we want more from you. And it's not that we're necessarily going to fire everybody that doesn't win a world championship every single year, and I don't think that should be the case. I don't think anybody in Cleveland's front office should be fired here, to be clear. But that's the role the ownership plays, to put a little bit more pressure on the GM, the president, to be better. And in the case of Jose, That's the role that he feels like he can play, the card that he can play. He doesn't have many of them to play, and at the end of the day, the organization can just say, go kick rocks, even though they shouldn't, but they could. And that's what I'm just thinking about for Jose. What role does he play in this entire package?
How dare you find a way to rehash some of the things we talked about a couple months ago?
I'm so good at this.
Do you know why the ownership discussion is such perfect fodder for the most banal Cleveland sports talk in town? It's because we have the extremes. And if you had just like solid ownership, and if you just had like an above average owner, below average owner, it would be boring. But you've got an owner in the Dolan's ownership, which you could argue is way too lax in terms of there's no pressure. Everybody has held their jobs for 25, 30 years. There's no pressure. You don't feel that sense of urgency. And some of that is fueled by ownership too. If you're going to place sense of urgency, you need to give them resources to capitalize on that sense of urgency. And then you have like Haslam's or, at certain points, Dan Gilbert, where it was like, all right, if you don't win the title, you're fired. Or if you screw up, you flub another draft, you're fired. And like in the Haslam's part of it, like some of that has been warranted where it's just been so bad. It's like,
Sure.
Please just find someone else.
But when they're storming in on draft day demanding certain things,
yeah.
like you're just as much of a part of this as
And
anybody
so
else.
It's the perfect fodder, and it's why the topic of conversation will never die in this town, and you can just turn on to some radio station or show twice a week, and you will hear this conversation for a few segments. Who would you rather have, Haslam or would you rather have Dolan? And it's because they are such polar opposites when the real answer is something in the middle. Would be ideal, right?
I'd actually more toward Dolan, actually.
Yeah.
But just with more flexibility.
The culture is great, but the culture, and even healthier culture in sports, you have to feel that pressure that it needs to burn. It needs to keep you up at night to win. And there is no better example, and I hate you for getting me back on this topic and giving me some adrenaline here. When you're 3 wins away from the World Series, that's when you should feel that the most. And it starts top down. I'm not like, I know Chris Antonetti feels it. That dude slept in his office one night before the trade deadline last month because he had so much going on and he so badly wanted to get it all right. You know what I mean? Like, and everything had been, that week was, you had Emmanuel Clase and like, you're like, what the hell are we doing with this team? And that guy's sleeping at the ballpark trying to figure this out. I know that the front office feels it. And they'll never come out and say that, like, well, our hands are tied, blah, blah, blah. Like, you hear them say, like, well, we understand the market, right? But you need to feel that from the top. You need to feel that from ownership. We don't ever hear from ownership, first of all. When was the last time you heard the team owner be disappointed or express that, like, he badly wants to win and he's frustrated with how things are going? Never. You don't hear anything. If you're lucky, and I wouldn't even say lucky because this actually does more of a disservice, you'll get a puff piece interview with him maybe once every couple years from some outlet. But I think it's you need that from the top down. You need that passion. You need that will to win, that want to win, that sense of urgency. I'll be honest, like I was under the impression that a lot of this had to do with wanting to see it through. Larry Dolan was getting very old. How did you get me talking about ownership here? It was actually one of the options in the poll. It was Dolan's payroll in Gaza, and here we are. and
so there I was, out on the stage, lights shining on me.
It is top down, and I'm not doing the Dolan Haslam thing. This is I don't know the Haslams well enough to know how badly they want to win. But with the Dolans, like they're from Cleveland. I have no doubt that they want to win, but it's how do you feel pressure to? Do you feel the sense of urgency to? And when you get that close to the World Series like they were last year, you don't do what you've done the last 9 months. That's just. And I'm not here to take a victory lap or say I told you so or anything like that. But when I was shouting and people were saying I was too negative over the offseason, and it started with canceling Guards Fest, to be honest, and gaslighting your fans about the reason for it. That's just a bad first step. That was going to bring bad juju to this whole situation. And I just feel like everything they've done since then is not operating in a way that a team that was as close as they were should operate. And that goes to ownership. And you feel that top down. And that's why, again, like there should be pressure. I was reminiscing with some people recently about 2012 and what a weird situation that was.
The movie was pretty good.
Remember the Mayans and the Rapture and all that? What happened with that?
We're living it right now.
That was 2012. And how, they're suffering through this 5-24 August. We all, for some reason, thought that team was solid or should have been better. But then you look back at the roster and you're like, what? They had Jeremy Accardo and is Jack Hanahan still on that team? And what a mess that roster was. Shelley Duncan hitting fifth. Anyway, Russ Kanzler. And remember, they're 5-24. Remember, there was like a charity outing at Corner Alley downtown, the bowling alley, and Paul Dolan was there. And we interviewed him, and he gave a vote of confidence to Manny Acta. And obviously, Manny Acta was fired like a month later. And we're talking about just how weird that was and awkward it was. But honestly, that's the norm. How often does Jimmy Haslam have to express either confidence or dissatisfaction in how things are going and talk about Kevin Stefanski's job and Andrew Berry's job? And that's customary in sports. But Paul Dolan, he's never out there in front of cameras or being interviewed or available. Well, and you never get that sense that there is any urgency from this organization to win. Like, they want to win, but they're going to keep it in their narrow parameters, and they are never going to be flexible enough
for whatever reason
to push outside of that.
For whatever reason. And you understand when you are the owner having to come out to address these things. I think the organization thinks, well, there's no winning here. There's no winning because people are going to be upset no matter what he says. And so it's not worthwhile to put him out there to express anything because we get no win from this. There's no way we get the dub. Well, that's true. It's going to be a lose-lose situation, but I think especially when emotions are high and people are disappointed, they're going to yell at you, but sometimes you just have to be there for them to yell at you. Sometimes you just have to take it. Sometimes you have to say this wasn't good enough, and you have to accept the fact that there's going to be no way you come out of this looking better, but that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes you just have to come out and take the medicine, take the tomatoes after your bad comedic set, and you just have to move on. And you just have to be there for people to vent their frustration at you, and then it's done. And I don't think they see the benefit from that standpoint of him ever coming out here. Sometimes you just want people that are in charge, you want to know that they feel as badly as you do when the team stinks, that they are as disappointed as you are. And they're not going to give you more credit for feeling disappointed, but I can guarantee somewhere in the back of their mind, they're at least going to feel a little bit better knowing, even if nothing changes at the end of the day, that you are out there expressing the same dissatisfaction that they feel.
Yeah, and I don't get it twisted. Like, I'm not sitting here saying like I'm never gonna carry water for the front office. I think our listeners know that. So when I say like I know Antonetti and Mike Chernoff, they care and they want to win, etc. Like Junior Caminero, every home run he hits just destroys them. Like that trade, and that's actually one that one's tough because they traded a teenager, and it's like. I don't know. I would encourage them to make trades like that more often than I would discourage them. It's just they picked terribly wrong, right? And that one,
and a lot of credit to the development of Tampa too.
For sure.
This is the talent was there, but they had to get that out of them.
That would be my bigger argument: is you've failed in the hitting development realm for far too long, more than just the trades, because they win more trades than they lose by far. There's no doubt, but. I've been super critical, and they've actually. This is where I give them credit. Like they've admitted, like that was a terrible trade. It kills us every time. Like we joke with Tampa's front office, can we please undo that? Like that's. So they're at least forthright in where they've slipped up, but they're under the microscope, man. And they've made some poor trades and they've made poor decisions and they haven't developed well enough on the hitting side, and the free agent money that they have spent has been horrible. So on one hand, you might say like Paul Dolan should cut the payroll even more, stop signing Paul Sewald and guys like that. No,
force them to be better.
But I just think, I don't know. I think there needs to be a little more sense of urgency, and
Yeah. The actions that they took this offseason was the actions of a team that sits where they're at right now.
Exactly.
Not completely out of it in the wild card. Going to play meaningful games, in quotes, here down the stretch because they're not completely out of it. The playoff odds, I was looking at it before the show started, is at 4.5. Not dead yet. 4.5. The Royals have blown past them.
You'll
They're
notice
at 17.
I'm not printing my eulogy yet. My obituary.
Not yet.
No, we'll
Not
save
yet.
that.
Not yet.
All right, there's one topic we haven't gotten to, though, that was on my list.
Okay. Not George Valera related.
My favorite movies.
Lion King.
That's it. All right.
It's a good
See
list.
you guys later in the week.
It's also your least favorite movie when it's the only one you've ever seen.
That's it.
Okay. Well,
We got to everything.
So in summation, George Valera. Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah. Not everyone can handle the ninth. I think Cade Smith can handle the ninth, even if he hasn't all the time yet.
Austin Hedges has handled the ninth pretty well.
Jose, more to talk about there. Maybe later this week we'll finally get to the topic we actually want to talk about.
Yeah.
I need to make more of an effort for the questions of the show to actually be featured on the show. So we're going to try to do that in the near future. And the biggest joy I had was watching Shane Bieber and talking about the weather with you.
That fall feel, hoodies and shorts.
You set me up to fail this show.